Here's a new question. At my workplace, an incident has happened which has made it uncomfortable for me to work there, not only physically and mentally, but financially, as the situation will now start to affect my income and make getting to work more of a challenge. I do not believe it is worth it to keep working there. However, on the bright side, I do think this situation is life or God or some force telling me and trying to force me to be in an uncomfortable situation, after being somewhat too comfortable on a job and not growing because it came easy. So I'm forced to grow and develop and do more and make more of my life. So I was wondering, do you believe life will sometimes give you hints and clues for when it is time to move on and get your life together, to do more and put you in a bad situation so you can develop? Have you been in a similar situation? I am in no way putting it on you to ask should I leave my job, but would merely like your input on this issue as it is affecting my current life and would like some help. Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey with the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China, and I got a life advice question today from our friend at Talent Dance TV. And hey, thank you so much for the question. If any of you watching have questions you would like me to answer, doesn't even have to be gym related, it can be life advice, whatever, let me know. I will answer. Okay? So, that's quite the question, my friend. That is quite the question. And in a way, it kind of sounds like you answer your own question, but you would like some additional input. And by that I mean it's a difficult spot you're in. It seems like life has kind of forced you into this tough spot in your job. I mean, nobody chooses that deliberately. Most of us don't. And without knowing really anything about the specifics of the job situation, other than it's uncomfortable for you, and it's affecting you financially and so on. But you understand that this has the potential to push you in a positive direction. I always say if we do not experience the limitations, then we will never start asking the right questions. And if we don't start asking the right questions, we will never find the right answers. So you asked me if I believe that life or God or some other force can manifest itself to you and push you in a certain direction. Now, it's no secret I'm a very religious person. I'm a Mormon. In fact, if you look at my YouTube page, the feature video is all about how I'm a Mormon. And if you don't know anything about the Mormons, well, we have some interesting beliefs. And if you live in a country that allows proselyting at all, not the People's Republic of China, because it's strictly forbidden by law here to proselyte your religion in any way, shape, or form, actively or passively, to Chinese citizens. Well, if you don't live here, then I'm sure two young missionaries would like to come to your door and tell you all about the church. But here is what I understand about God. I understand that God is a personal being. That God is our Father, mine, yours, all of ours. The Father of human spirits. Not just a creator in a very abstract sense, but an actual Father, that we are part of the family of God. And as the children of God, as the Apostle Paul said in the Bible, in the book of Romans, as children of God, we are heirs of God, joint heirs with Christ, if it so be that we suffer with him. Now, at risk of waxing too theological or perhaps presenting some beliefs that you don't share, I just want to make it known exactly what I believe about God. That God is a person, right? And he did not put us on this planet without any way of knowing and understanding what his will is. Now, I believe it is absolutely crucial that we come to know and do the will of God. So how do we do that? How do you know the will of anybody? You ask. Remember, if we don't experience the limitations, we won't ask the right questions. And if we don't ask the questions, we'll never find the answers. Fantastic passage in the Bible, in the book of James. It's a short book. Go read it. It's awesome. One of my favorites. And it's the passage of the Bible that you could say kind of inspired Mormonism, if you will. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not. That's fancy old-timey speak for, if you don't know something, ask God, because he's not going to give you a lecture and wag his finger at you for asking, like some humans do. He's not going to laugh at us for being ignorant. If we ask in faith, we'll receive the answer. That's what the Scripture says. And that is something I believe. That's something I know to be true. Now, that being said, that I understand there is a way to understand, to know the will of God and to do it. And I understand not everybody shares those beliefs. Not everybody believes in God. But you ask me, does God or life or some other force, some higher power, intervene in the course of our lives? Does God or life or this higher power micromanage our lives? Now, there are a bunch of different schools of thought in Mormonism, and none of them are doctrine. And I find this reflected throughout humanity, actually. There are those that I tend to call Mormon fatalists, as in fate. People who believe in fate. And I'm not one of them. I don't believe in fate, to quote the tragedy of Julius Caesar. Our fate is not in our stars, but in ourselves. So I believe that God has given us agency, free will. And I know that's not traditional evangelical Calvinist thinking at all. I'm not a Calvinist, I'm a Mormon. We believe in free will. I believe that God put us on this earth to give us the choice to choose between good and evil, to either seek the will of God and to do it or not. So, does God or whatever higher power you believe in intervene? Does he micromanage? Now, I believe that can and probably has happened at some point. If the Almighty believes that it's important, sure. If you look at the Bible, for example, I quoted Paul, the Apostle Paul. He wasn't always an apostle. He was a stark opponent of the church. He used to hunt down Christians, send them to their deaths. He was kind of a bad guy. And God intervened. And spoke to him. And he changed his life, and he changed his wicked ways. He repented of his sins, and he became a Christian. And he went about the rest of his life preaching the gospel of Jesus. So that's a case, recorded in Scripture that I believe in, about God intervening very specifically, very directly. Now, does that always happen? No, absolutely not. If God came down from the heavens and spoke to every sinner, well, he'd speak to every last one of us. I mean, with a big booming voice from the heavens. Well, does God speak to every single one of us? That's an interesting question. Probably not usually with a big booming voice. I mean, that big booming voice that, Paul talked about, that I have not heard. The still small voice that the prophet Elijah talked about in the Old Testament, yeah, that one I have heard. Notice God in the details. Some people talk about miracles, and they say faith precedes a miracle. And that's a popular aphorism. Faith precedes the miracle. The idea that if we don't have the faith, we won't see the miracle. And for the longest time, I believed that meant that if we had enough faith, that we'd be able to see magic. And while that may be within the realm of possibility, and things like that are recorded in the Bible, the Book of Mormon, other scriptures that I believe in too. But that's the notable exception. Definitely not the norm. But I think we can all see miracles. Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." And I always used to understand that as, well, if we're pure in heart after we die, and send up to the judgment bar in heaven or whatever, we'll see God. But consider this. Maybe, if we have faith, we can see God, we can see miracles in the details. Take, for example, the birth of a child. It's entirely possible that one man might look at that, might see a baby being born and think, well, this is a complex biomechanical process. And it is. But another man might see the same thing and see the complex biomechanical process of new life being created. But he might see something else. He may see a miracle. May see the miracle of life. This thing that happens. This thing which we don't fully understand. This thing that is basically magic. First there was no life, and then there was. So we can, if we have faith in God, faith that God was the father of that spirit, of that child that was born, and see a miracle, see that new life as a miracle. And if we don't have faith, well, we won't see that miracle. I might look up in the sky and see the sun rising and think, well, simply a result of gravitational forces and blah, 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 whatever. And it is. But I might also think, I can see the miracle in this because I have faith in the hands that wrought it. Faith in the Word by whose power it was organized. That's an interesting distinction between Mormonism and a lot of other Christians as we talk about organization, going hand in hand with creation. We know something doesn't come from nothing. Anyway, waxing a little theological, getting back to your dilemma here. So what do we do? What do we do, my friend? What would I do? You know, my wife was in a similar situation. She was a driver's education instructor back in the US, and she kind of hated her job. She was good at her job, but she kind of hated it. She didn't like it. She worked that job for quite a while, and you know, it is difficult to hear the woman that you love cry night after night about something like that, something that's distressing her. And, you know, we talked about it quite a bit, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? And long story short, we moved to China, started a new life. We sold everything that we had. We moved to Shanghai, got some jobs over here, teaching at a university, and changed everything about our lives. You know, I closed my old gym back in the States, quit my old job, sold all my stuff, brought one suitcase over here to the People's Republic of China, started all over. And something was different. You know, my wife removed herself from what was a negative situation, and we changed everything about our lives. We started spending a lot of time together, and we were a lot happier. Now, I'm not telling you that if you move to some other place, you'll be happier, or if you change jobs, you'll be happier. I'm going to tell you a story. It's an allegory of sorts. So there's this man, he works at a gas station in this small town. People always pull through and ask for directions from the old gas station attendant. There's this family, they drive in to get some gas and ask for directions, and they say, hey, we're thinking about moving to this community. Is this a good place to live in? And the man says, well, what was it like where you're from? They said, oh, it's terrible. We hated it. The old man said, you probably wouldn't like this place either. So they drove off. Later, another family moved in, or came to the gas station. And they asked for directions. And they said, hey, we're thinking about moving to this town. What's it like? Is it a good place to live? The old man said, well, what's it like where you come from? And they said, oh, great, fantastic, we loved it. He said, well, I reckon you'll like it here too. So, happiness, it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside. Stuff and things, yeah, that's nice. You know, there's different levels of happy, right? The stuff and things happy, the having things, the acquiring stuff, it's very temporary, very transient. You know, makes us happy for a while, makes us glad for a while, but then we want more. We want something else. A lot of people say, don't spend your money on things, spend your money on experiences. And, okay. Experiences are nice, traveling's nice, doing new stuff is nice. But eventually you run into that same wall as stuff and things. Just want more. It doesn't fill that void. So we got another level. What would we call that? Self-improvement, maybe? Working on yourself? Go to the gym, lift some weights, get stronger, read a book, study, get smarter. Work on yourself. But that kind of has a limit too. We'll run into that same issue eventually. It's never going to be enough. You don't think it is? I mean, look at those guys those dudes with bigorexia, that body dysmorphic disorder where they're never big enough. They're never strong enough. Where they set those goals to, squat 500 pounds and they finally get to that 500-pound max and it didn't make them happy. Not in the long term. So what's the next level after that? Stuff and things. Experiences. Self-improvement. What does make you happy? How about giving back? Giving something back. Right? Shift the focus from here to someone else. Someone else who maybe needs, not wants, but needs some stuff and things. Somebody who not wants, but needs an experience. Shift that focus from you to improving yourself, to improving somebody else who needs that knowledge and that experience that you have to share. Because believe me, there are billions of people in that boat out there. I mean, if you have access to the internet, for example, you are definitely in a situation to help somebody who needs it. Might sound a little heavy-handed or preachy, but that's where I found the greatest happiness to come. And that's a big reason why I love my job, because it allows me to give something back. I mean, yeah, it gives me the money that I need. I mean, not a lot. I'm not a wealthy man by any stretch of the imagination. I've got internet access, though. It allows me to have some experiences that are pretty cool. It definitely allows me to focus on self-improvement, getting stronger, getting smarter, getting more technical, things like that. But more importantly, it allows me to give something back, to share, my stuff, my things, my experiences, and my self-improvement with others to help them build themselves up. And that is awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So maybe, if you feel life pushing you in that direction, in a direction where you could find a job that could allow you to give something back, oh, wow. That would be fantastic. And if not, I don't know, maybe you just end up stuck as a clerk at a desk or what do you call it, customer service person behind a cash register. I've done that job. But guess what? You can still give back. I had this job years ago. I worked at a video store back when they still had video rentals. What was it? Hollywood Video, competitor of Blockbuster. For all you old folks out there who remember renting DVDs and VHS tapes. And there was this man, what was his name? Rajiv. He ran a convenience store. He owned a 7-Eleven. And Rajiv would come in every weekend to rent a movie, and he would always insist that I help him instead of the other customer service representatives, because he liked the way that I did it. And I remember one day Rajiv came in and he offered me a job at his 7-Eleven. He said, "Come and work for me. I will pay you 15 cents more." And from his perspective, that was a very generous offer. And I kind of hesitated and said, I'll pay you 50 cents more, 60 cents more, $1 more. And it was like, well, I'm not really looking for a different job right now, but why? I asked him. And he said, because every time I come in here, you make me feel good about myself. And I love that. And it's not just me coming in and having a financial transaction with some robot. I mean, it's a person. I see that there's a person. And I see that you care about people. And I want to bring that to my store. I love that. And I realized, no matter what job you're working, even if it's, the clerk behind a cash register, you can still give something back. As long as you are dealing with other human beings in some way, shape, or form at one time or another, you can give something back. So, what should you do? I don't know. I don't know the details. And you specifically asked, you're not asking, should I quit my job or not, so I won't answer that for you. I'll let you figure that out. But have I personally experienced something like this? Ooh, I've worked a lot of different jobs. And I've worked jobs that I hated. I've worked jobs that just ground me into the dirt. And I've worked some fantastic ones too. And everything in between. But your question reminded me of one experience, and at risk of waxing long, I'm going to tell you this one more story. When I first got here to China, to Shanghai, I decided to open up an MMA gym here because I had a small gym back in the US, and I thought, okay, I had some success back there. I'm going to do the same thing here, even though at the time MMA was completely unknown in this part of China, in pretty much the whole country with very few exceptions. I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to open up a gym here. And I met this other guy who was an amateur fighter, and he had an interest in MMA, and he seemed like a really nice guy, and we seemed to get along, and we decided to go into it together. And we opened up this gym, and for a while it went pretty well, and I'll spare you the details, but it started turning into a really negative experience. Okay, it turned out this guy who seemed like he was a really nice guy was not. We had some problems, we had some issues, and it affected me in every single way that you mentioned that your current situation affected you. I mean, financially, emotionally, physically, in every way. I mean, it was a drain working with this guy, and it was, it felt like a tough situation to separate myself from. I felt kind of obligated to stick through it and see it through and see my gym become a success. And after a while, I decided, this is a situation I need to remove myself from. This is a person that I need to remove myself from. Okay? It's not our job to save every person out there. It's not our job to change every person. Right? Some things we can change, and some people we can't. This was a man I couldn't change. Couldn't change his ways, and couldn't change the way he wanted to do business. So I removed myself from the situation. And what happened? Life got better. Slowly, but it got better. And now, I'm in a much, much better situation. I'm at a place, I'm at a place in my life, I'm at a gym, a teaching situation that's really positive. I've got a positive income, cash flow. I've got positive experiences with my students. I've got positive experience with the people I work with. Positive experiences with the other coaches and the other owners here at the gym. And it's fantastic. And I love it. And I wake up in the morning excited to go to work. And I wish everybody could have that. I hope that you have that experience too. Waking up in the morning excited to go to work. But I'm going to tell you that's long-term goals, man. Long-term goals. Nobody lucks into the perfect job. You got to make it. So, hey, thank you so much for the question. If any of you have any other questions about gyms, about fighting, strength training, MMA, life advice, whatever, let me know. Hey, thanks for watching. Get out there and train, guys.